Okay, let's do this thing. Right, let it go. This is definitely vodka. So, in my video about Christopher Nolan, I mentioned the fact that I did my dissertation on comparing the films of Christopher Nolan and David Fincher. So, I think it's probably about time that I made the follow-up to that where I talk about some David Fincher films. So I'm going to do that relatable internet thing where I rank them in order because I have some controversial opinions. First opinion, not at all controversial. Alien 3 is at the bottom, I'm sorry. So yeah, his first film is my number 10 on the list because, let's be honest, it's the worst Alien film. But let's also be honest, he, at the age of 27, was handed $50 million. His first feature film was a sequel to a massive franchise. You might have got it all wrong, but well done on even getting the film. Next we have The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo from 2011. It's not a bad film, it's just a slow one with twists that don't feel dramatic, and I'm not invested in any of the characters. It's uncomfortable though, more so than any other David Fincher film. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, it makes me squirm. It makes me squirm quite a lot. My toes are curling just thinking about it. At number 8, we have my controversial opinion. So it's not a bad film, but Zodiac is at my number 8. If you're familiar with lists about movies on the internet, so both IndieWire and Taste of Cinema say that Zodiac is one of David Fincher's best films, and it's not true, goddammit! Why do you keep saying this? Okay, so context in the history of David Fincher. After 2002's Panic Room, he didn't make a movie for 5 years. Then he came back with Zodiac, which was his first film shot on digital cameras, and people loved it, and it did some really innovative things with CGI, and it got nominated for some Oscars and stuff, yeah. But the thing is, aside from those innovations, it's a great film, but it's still not as good as so many other David Fincher films. It's overly long, it meanders, it's just... it's not well structured. It's not a well structured film. And it has all of these different characters and it's not linking to a plot and I get bored and I want to go to sleep, aside from in some really, really tense scenes like the one with Jake Gyllenhaal going to the basement, because that is one of my favourite scenes from any movie ever, because it's so tense.
Not many people have basements in California.
I do.
Next on the list at number 7 is The Game, which is pretty good. The only problem is it doesn't really have an ending. It's this kind of conspiracy movie which just kind of goes forward and speeds up and gets faster and faster and faster, and it's so tense, and then it doesn't really resolve any of it with the ending, which is kind of annoying because I was super invested. Dave, what are you doing, Dave? At number 6 we have Panic Room, which is a lot simpler than a lot of his films, and he didn't like it very much. Basically, it's a home invasion thriller, and that's all it is, but it's a really, really tightly wound, well-directed, well-acted, just great home invasion thriller, and I gotta give it props for that. Also, young Kristen Stewart is really sassy, and it's great, and I think she's great. And so many people hate her because of Twilight. God damn it, world! I'm mad at everything because of this video. Next on the list at number 5 now, so we're halfway there, is Gone Girl, which, again, a bit like Zodiac, it's a bit kind of messy and overly long, but there are some fantastic performances there, and it's got one of the greatest death scenes in history. I'm not telling you whose, but it's fantastic. Oh, it makes me squirm a little bit too. My toes are curling. For some reason, didn't do great at the Oscars, but it should have done because it's got so many Oscar-worthy performances in that film. Oof, oof. Number 4 is The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which is a weird one. I didn't talk about it at all in my dissertation because it's so un-Fincher. Okay, so it looks like a Fincher film. It's super pretty, the lighting's all nice and stuff, and they use CGI in interesting ways, and it's got all these really slick camera moves. Oh, he positions you really well, and it's really tense. But it's this sort of magic realist epic, weird comedy drama, and it's not very much like any other Fincher film. I get a little bit annoyed about how much Cate Blanchett dances in this film. Like, there are plot points that revolve around her dancing too much, and that annoys me a little bit. But aside from that, it's really touching on so many different levels, and you wouldn't really think of Fincher as being someone who makes touching films, but I was really invested in like this epic love story and this kind of tale of what it means to be human, and sort of the importance of aging, and it's really interesting. It's a lovely film. You should watch it. Number 3, an incredibly misunderstood film, Fight Club. Okay, I just want to get the Fight Club thing out of my system quickly, okay? Okay, firstly, yes, I'm talking about Fight Club. Don't make the goddamn joke. Everyone makes that joke, goddammit. Secondly, this is a film that's against consumerism, but it's also against, like, fascism and mythopoetic essentialism and men punching each other in the face to feel more like men. It doesn't support that, okay? So if you're quoting all of Tyler Durden's speeches to be like, oh, I'm rebelling from, you know, capitalism. The film basically says by the end, yeah, it's not a good idea to do these things. Look, bad stuff happens when you start punching each other in the face to feel more like a man. The whole point is that there are people who feel like consumerism is taking their identities away, so they go for this, like, violent fascist who takes their identities away even more, but they're okay with it because it's not consumerism. So they're being manipulated because they thought they were being manipulated. Like, can you not see? Fight Club rant over. Okay, let's keep going. Number 2 is The Social Network. It's just a really good film. Though anyone out there who watches Jack Howard, I'm very sorry that this wasn't at the very top of my list. It's the story of how someone who struggled to connect to people created something to help people connect, which didn't help him connect to people. And sure, the ending's a little bit kind of contrived and sentimental, but, you know, it's an Oscar bait film. And my number 1 is the ultimate film student film. It's Seven. Okay, it's a bit depressing, but if you haven't seen Seven, don't do any research. Just go watch it. It's this dark sort of neo-noir detective film where they're searching for a killer, and it sets so many things up with so many sort of genre tropes, but then it kind of twists all of them in ways that you don't expect, and then the ending just kind of tears out your heart and throws it on the floor and then jumps on it violently. I'm sorry, I'm passionate about David Fincher. He is my babe. Finchy boy. Dave! So that is my ranking for David Fincher films. If you disagree, tell me in the comments, unless you think Zodiac should be at the top, in which case, you're wrong. You're wrong! You know, the biggest problem with Zodiac is the fact that they didn't work out it was Ted Cruz from the very start.